She never told a soul what she did. She had cried once, alone in the shower the night Ernesto died. She vowed to take her secret to the grave, a secret so deadly, so sharp, it could slice through marble. But she kept it hidden beneath the soft, perfect folds of motherhood and grace. This is the story of Maria, a delightful woman who sold roasted corn by the roadside for many years, fending for her family. She has been married to Ernesto for 11 years. Ernesto was a very handsome and elegant man. He was very good with his words. He has just the right word to sweep any woman off her feet. That was one of the things Maria loved about him. But Maria was not the only woman who loved his sweet words. Ernesto was a street fly. He perched on every woman he came across, as long as they gave him the go-ahead. Ernesto and Maria met in the most ordinary way. Maria was selling roasted corn by the roadside one humid afternoon when Ernesto strolled up, sweat glistening on his neck, the smell of cheap cologne trailing behind him. He smiled like someone who'd never known pain, and for a moment, Maria forgot hers. He bought 2 ears of corn but stayed for an hour. He made her laugh. Not a loud laugh, just the kind that slips out when your guard is down. He said he was a construction worker between jobs. Said her smile looked like home. She hadn't always been lucky in her past relationships, but something about Ernesto made her want to believe again. Maybe it was the way he sat on an overturned paint bucket and helped her fan the charcoal fire, like he was made to belong there. By the 3rd week, he was showing up daily. By the 2nd month, he was staying over. He brought candies for her nieces and nephews, fixed the broken stool by the fire stand, and called her mi reina, meaning my queen, like it meant something. She let him move in. Her neighbors warned her about Ernesto. They always did. But Maria had long learned to smile past warnings. What no one knew was that she didn't believe in fairy tales anymore. Just distractions from her pain. And Ernesto was a good distraction. But distractions don't last. Within a year, the cracks showed. He stopped helping, started drinking, came home with a lipstick stain on his shirt. His cologne smelled like feminine perfume and stories that didn't make sense. But Maria stayed, even when she stopped recognizing the man she fell for, even when she started dreaming of endings. It was a quiet night, the kind where even the dogs refused to bark. Maria had just put the kids to bed, her legs aching from a long day standing by her corn stand. She was pregnant with their 2nd child. Ernesto had come home late again, mumbling something about a busted truck and too many beers. He fell asleep on the couch, snoring, one shoe on, phone buzzing beside him. She never used to check his phone. But something about that night, the way he avoided her eyes all week, the sudden showering before bed, the new boxers she didn't buy. At 11:47 p.m., his phone lit up. She didn't mean to reach for it. But her hand moved before her thoughts caught up. The screen read, "Can't stop thinking about last night. Your hands, your mouth. I'm sore." The woman's name was Lupita. Maria's hands trembled. Her lips quivered. Her heart raced. She tapped the thread, scrolled and scrolled. Photos, voice notes, and a video. Blurry, but clear enough. She felt her blood turn cold. Wasn't it bad enough that he was cheating? He took it a step further, writing love letters and making promises. He told Lupita he loved her cooking, said he felt free with her. That Maria didn't understand him, that she was just a woman with tired eyes and burnt corn fingers. Maria sat still for a long time, phone trembling in her grip. She didn't cry, not yet. Instead, she went to the kitchen, poured herself a glass of water, and stared out of the window for what seemed like eternity. Then she walked back, placed the phone silently beside him, and stood over Ernesto's sleeping body. For the first time since they met, she didn't feel love. she felt nothing. But nothing is dangerous. It leaves room for other things to grow, like plants born in the dark. Maria always believed that love would protect her, but that belief died a long time ago. She sat up on the bed that night, thinking back to a time when she reminded Ernesto that he used to work 2 jobs before the pregnancy, pleading with him that she needed his support now more than ever. At that time, she was 6 months pregnant with their first child. Ernesto's face twisted. He threw a plate at the wall, inches from her swollen belly. She never really understood why Ernesto behaved that way, but with what she saw on his phone this night, she has been able to connect the dots. She recalled the reason for their recent fallout. She had been craving mangoes, so she had asked gently, not even expecting him to buy any, just sharing a thought. His response was a slammed door and hours of silence. When he returned, drunk and angry, he accused her of being ungrateful, lazy, just sitting there getting fat. "You think carrying a baby makes you special?" he spat. "Any street rat can do that." All of a sudden, she shook herself out of that thought and came back to reality. She felt her heart ache from the pain of betrayal. She finally cried herself to sleep that night. Maria still made Ernesto's favorite breakfast every Sunday. Eggs runny, tortillas warm, a little chili sprinkled on top. She packed the kids' lunch boxes before dawn, combed their hair, ironed their uniforms. To the neighbors, she was the ideal wife. A quiet, respectful woman who kept her house clean, her children well behaved, and her husband satisfied. They didn't know the pain that she carried in her heart every day. 2 days later, while folding Ernesto's jeans, his phone buzzed. She had told herself she wouldn't check his messages after the last time, but the name, Sophie, made her heart stop. Ernesto saved this woman's name on his phone with a heart emoji, while he saved Maria's name with a corn emoji. One tap and everything spilled out. Voice notes, photos, long paragraphs filled with promises Ernesto hadn't made to Maria in years. He called Sophie mi reina, meaning Sophie my queen. He sent her money, told her he missed her body, told her he hated coming home to a boring wife. He said Maria smelled like corn and charcoal dust. She almost dropped the phone. But instead of confronting him, Maria did something else, something unexplainable. She smiled when he walked in that night. She kissed him on the cheek, served his favorite food hotter than usual, and sat down beside him as he ate. She asked him about his day and smiled as he talked. She set up a hot bath for him and even massaged his back like she used to. She continued doing this, hoping that maybe, just maybe, if she was soft enough, kind enough, he would remember the woman he once loved. But Ernesto didn't soften. He felt even more entitled to her love and loyalty and treated Maria even worse. He stayed out later, and each time she kissed him, she could taste the betrayal. Still, she said nothing, because silence was safer than confrontation. Part of her still wanted to believe he could change. What Ernesto didn't know was that the woman he betrayed was starting to become someone he no longer recognized. It was like every other day, every other busy afternoon. Maria was fanning the charcoal when she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her tummy. She knew it was labor pain. She asked me to take over. She managed to sit down, and then she took out her phone from her purse and called her husband, Ernesto. The phone rang, but there was no response. She sent him a text message, but no reply. By now, she was in so much pain, sweating and panting. I urged her to start going to the hospital. I stopped a taxi, paid for her, but she insisted that I stay back to sell the rest of the roasted corn. And off she went to the hospital, alone. Ernesto showed up 3 hours late at the hospital. with the smell of alcohol in his breath and lipstick stain on his collar. He looked at the baby and held the baby like a stranger's dog. Maria told him the baby's name. "You named her already?" he asked, annoyed. "You could have waited." She perceived the smell of alcohol in his breath, saw the lipstick stain on his collar. She didn't bother asking him his whereabouts. From then on, Maria closed her heart and accepted the fact that she would have to find a way to survive on her own. She nursed the baby, sold corn, and saved pesos in a tin under the sink. And every night, Ernesto returned, not with love, but with lies and excuses. Still, she stayed. But now, something inside Maria had changed. Something sharp, something dangerous. And it was growing faster than her fear ever did. After that day, Maria never saw Ernesto the same. She still cooked his meals, still made his bed, still ironed his shirts before dawn so he wouldn't complain. But every gesture she made was laced with quiet fury. She stopped sleeping well. Every time Ernesto touched her in bed, she stiffened. He thought she was just tired. In truth, she was burning, but she never said a word. She watched. She waited. 1 week later, Maria was just about to lie down to sleep when a notification beeped in Ernesto's phone. She grabbed the phone and saw a message from a woman named Carla. She had seen this name before. She had copied the phone number and had reached out to her, begging that she leave her husband. Maria took an interest in Carla because she seemed to have a stronger grip on Ernesto than other women. Carla was ruthless. She mocked Maria. She reported Maria to Ernesto and threatened to leave Ernesto if he didn't deal with Maria. Ernesto confronted Maria and warned her to stay away from his private life. Maria began studying Carla's messages, every little detail: Carla's birthday, her love for green smoothies, the hotel room she and Ernesto had used in Puebla, the tattoo on her hip that Ernesto said looked like a butterfly but wilder. And Maria did something she never thought she'd do. She bought a new SIM card and created a fake identity online. She became Daniela, a fitness coach from Cancun. Confident, sexy, adventurous. She posted just enough to make it believable. Then she found him, Mario X99, on a private forum where people lived on their edge. He was bold, charming, and most importantly, HIV positive. He didn't hide it. In fact, he was proud of how many women still chased him. "They like danger," he said. Maria sent him a private message. She said she needed a favor. He laughed at first. But when Maria offered money, real money, he agreed to anything. Her plan was simple: get Carla obsessed with someone else, someone with an incurable disease. She knew it was risky, she knew it was wrong, but Maria had spent 11 years surviving Ernesto's betrayals. Now it was her turn to take control. She wasn't the street corn seller anymore. She was a woman scorned, with a plan. Carla was used to attention, so when Mario contacted her, things felt different. He wasn't like the other men who chased her for her body, or begged to steal moments from Ernesto. No. Mario was bold, reckless, dangerous in a way that made her pulse race. They started texting at night, then video calls, then pictures. Within a week, Carla was asking when they'd meet. "I'll be in town next weekend," he said. "We can get a room." Exactly how she liked it. What Carla didn't know was that Mario was updating Maria about everything. She was monitoring every chat between them, every plan and every lie. Mario had agreed to send screen recordings. Maria studied them like a scientist studying a virus. She saw how Carla giggled when Maria said it did. She was spicier than any woman in Cancun. She listened to the voice note Carla sent to Mario saying, "I've never felt this excited, not even with Ernesto." That was the line Maria had been waiting for. She paused the recording, rewound, played it again. Not even with Ernesto. It was working, she said to herself. The day finally came. Carla booked a hotel room at a hidden spot just outside town. She told Ernesto she had a family emergency. He didn't ask questions, just gave her some cash and kissed her cheek like a fool. Meanwhile, Maria sat on a small mattress, her children asleep beside her, and stared at her cracked phone screen. She saw the selfie Carla posted, wearing red lipstick and nothing else, captioned, "Finally doing something for me." Maria's heart beat like a drum. She wasn't proud, but she didn't feel guilty either, because for once, the storm wasn't crashing down on her head. It was heading straight for someone else, and she had lit the first spark. Carla couldn't remember the man's name. She just knew he had a deep voice, sharp jawline, and the wild smile. The kind of smile that made reckless decisions feel romantic. He had approached her like they'd known each other forever, called her beautiful, and offered her wine like he already owned the night. She slept with him once, in a dimly lit hotel room with broken blinds and no questions asked. Just 2 weeks later, Ernesto took her to that same hotel. The same room, the same sheets. He didn't know. Carla didn't tell him. She didn't think it mattered. After all, she thought she was in love. She thought she had won. But within weeks, the glitter started peeling. Carla complained of constant fatigue. She coughed at night. Her weight dropped rapidly. Doctors said it might be tuberculosis or stress. She brushed it off. Then Ernesto began showing the same signs. Night sweats, mouth ulcers, rash. He thought it was allergies. He refused to go to the hospital until his gums began bleeding. That was when the fear crept in. Carla called him one night, sobbing uncontrollably. "I went to the clinic," she said. "They ran tests. I'm HIV positive." There was silence. Then Ernesto dropped the phone. That night, he sat in the bathroom for hours, staring at the mirror. The lines under his eyes looked deeper. The arrogance that once lived in his posture had disappeared. Maria knew nothing yet. She still cooked his meals, still cared for their child, still smiled even when his eyes wandered. But deep inside, something told her the worst had happened. And when she found the half-used HIV medication hidden in Ernesto's drawer, her hands shook. The truth had arrived, and it was only the beginning. Once the man who filled every room with his loud laughter and wondering eyes, now he lay curled on a stained hospital bed, teeth chattering even though it was the middle of summer. His skin had turned a waxy gray, stretched tight over bones, lips cracked, eyes sunken like two dark pits. No one came to visit. Not his friends, not his flings, not even Carla. Each day, Ernesto faded more. Boils dotted his arms, and infections wouldn't heal. His once smooth hands shook violently. The doctor said it was advanced, very advanced. But Maria already knew. She had known long before the tests confirmed it. She had orchestrated it. 4 days later, Ernesto died, alone, crying in a hospital. No dignity, no closure, just fear, confusion, and pain. Maria buried him in a modest coffin. She dressed their son in a neat little suit and kissed his forehead before they left the cemetery. 2 weeks later, Maria learned that Carla's body was found in a dingy hotel bathroom. The staff said she'd locked herself inside for 2 days. When they broke the door, she was lying on the floor, skin cold, blood on her sheets. Her lips were purple. There was a needle nearby, and in her purse a photo of Ernesto, creased, folded, tear-stained. Maria wasn't moved when she heard the news. She continued fanning the charcoal stove and attending to her customers like nothing had happened. She never told a soul what she did, not even the priest, not her sister, not her son. She had cried once, alone in the shower the night Ernesto died. She never cried again after that. Everyone thought she was a saint, the loyal wife who stood by her husband's deathbed, the woman who still cooked his favorite soup, the grieving widow who never spoke ill of the dead. But inside, Maria felt nothing but a strange, bitter peace. She had buried more than Ernesto. She had buried the pain, the betrayal, and the humiliation.